Hey everybody, how are you doing? This is Kirsten here, and thank you so much for joining me today on this new episode of A Better Way with Kirsten podcast. On this podcast, we're talking about mind body conditions. We're talking about chronic sensations, chronic pains in the body that feel very physical, but actually don't have a physical cause. And if you have been listening to at least a few episodes, you know exactly what I'm talking about. If you're new, maybe go back and listen to a few more episodes to understand better what are the things that we're talking about here, but I'm going to always give you a little bit of an introduction, just very briefly. You may have chronic sensations, pains, aches, and all sorts of discomforts in the body, even though there's nothing physically wrong with you. So these sensations are coming from your brain. Your brain is sending them to you because it thinks that something dangerous is going on. Because pain is a danger signal, but your brain is making a mistake when it's sending it to you because there's nothing wrong with you. But your brain is perceiving something as dangerous, and therefore it wants to warn you. And now there's nothing physically wrong. And this is a really difficult situation to be in because, like I said, the sensations, the pains, they feel so real. And I know this so well. I've talked to so many people. I went through it myself. And it just feels like, how can I fix this back pain? I have to do something for my back. Or how can I fix these chronic headaches? What do I have to take? But the solution is actually in your psychology, right? You have to address your stress. You have to address your thoughts. You have to stress your beliefs. You have to get back to movement if you have been avoiding that. So there are a lot of different solutions to that problem. The main thing, of course, it always comes down to settling down your nervous system, calming down your brain, but everybody might need a little bit like a different angle. But yeah, the point is that if you have these chronic sensations called TMS, then there's nothing physically wrong with you, and you have to take a different approach and look into your psychology instead. What's going on there? What's stressing you out? So this is what we're talking about on this podcast. And today I'm going to share with you a personal experience of something that happened and it was really shocking and scary, and what I learned from it and how it is connected to TMS. Like what I learned, how do I, what is the connection here to TMS? So let's dive in. So what happened is that I got stung by a scorpion. And it was very shocking, as you may understand, unless you're very used to them and they sting you all the time. But for me, it was the first time, hopefully last, and it was really scary. So here's what happened. I woke up on a Sunday morning and I was just laying in bed and, not rushing, just like resting a little bit longer. And suddenly I felt like a really strong pain in my toe. And at first, I thought that maybe it was a cactus spine because if you live in Arizona, or anywhere, where there's desert, you know that every time you go out or you go on a hike, which we had just done the day before, you find a spike somewhere in your clothes or on your skin, and sometimes they're just, pretty big. So it can hurt, but you see it and you just take it out and it's fine. Sometimes those spines are very, very thin and small too, which are harder to find, and sometimes you're like really looking under like a super bright light, you're like, I know there's something in my finger, but I just can't see it. But there is something. So you just like have to like find it and take it out. So I thought this was going on, but the pain was like so sharp. I quickly realized, no, this is not a cactus spine. This is something else. And it literally felt like somebody like sliced through my toe with a piece of glass. That's what it felt like. And so I pulled up the blanket and I saw that there's a scorpion there. And of course, I did go into panic because it has never happened to me before. It was incredibly painful. It was really, really painful. Like I said, it felt like slicing my toe with something. And after the first initial pain of like the slicing sensation, after that, it started really like burning, and it was pretty painful. It didn't get like very swollen or anything, luckily, but the pain was very intense. And of course, there's also fear. I was so afraid. Like, what was it? What kind of scorpion was it? How did it get in here? Is it gonna be real bad? Do I have to go to ER? Like, what's going on? And so my husband, he's always the really calm person. Like, definitely, between the two of us, he's the one who's more like he can stay more calm and he can stay more like chill and let's check things out and make sure that everything is fine. Maybe we don't have to panic at all. But I think if you're more like sensitive, more reactive, which I think I am, at least in this situation, it was like really threatening. So we got rid of the little guy, the scorpion, threw it down the window, and then we looked it up, and comes out that it was the not dangerous one because the ones that have like a black back, those are the dangerous one. This guy had like a light brown or white, I don't remember, but honestly, I was like, I don't even want to Google this. I told my husband, you Google it and tell me what it was. And so he did. He's like sitting there quietly reading on his phone. I'm like, well, tell me something already. And he said, you know what? Like most of them actually aren't dangerous. Most of them aren't like poisonous. What they say here is that you probably feel a lot of pain and it will go on for a couple of days. But the bottom line is that there's nothing wrong. It's just like really scary. Okay, so that was the story. Then later that day, we went out, we went shopping. I was able to like walk, but I couldn't put like a lot of weight on that, the ball of my foot or my toes. So I kind of like was walking on the outer side of my foot with my right foot. But it got better, like 4 hours, 5 hours later, I could walk on it. I walked on a treadmill for a little bit. It got better, but it was still like really this like very hot feeling, really hot feeling. And then after a little while, it became numb. And so what happened then? That was on Sunday. So Sunday and Monday, what happened was like I became pretty hyper vigilant, as I think you understand. I was like, is there another one? How did it get in here? And I developed like a little bit of fear of going to bed because it had been right there, like in my bed. Like, come on, this is crazy. It wasn't like out in nature, it was in my bed. And so the couple of next nights, I had a hard time kind of like going to bed. I went to bed, of course, and at the same evening, I was like, I'm gonna change all the sheets and vacuum all the whole house. And then as I was changing the sheets, I saw like something coming out of the sheets, and I was like, oh my God, right? And I thought there's another one. And it wasn't like an old earplug that was in the bed, right? Because I sleep with earplugs. And so that was that. But my brain was already, oh my God, there's another one, right? So I became hyper vigilant. I became afraid of going to bed. And then at night, I woke up like a couple of times, like just like, like scared. And I think this is probably common for more sensitive people. We get this like fear reaction easier and we become hyper vigilant. And then this is definitely the word that I want to use here. That's the most fitting word here. I did become hyper vigilant. And of course, I told myself like, hey, like what are the chances that there's like more than one? I mean, could be, right? I don't know. But the chances are pretty low that there's going to be another one the next night, right? But the brain still goes there, right? And still looking out for danger. And like every time I saw something moving in a weird way, I just got this like, right, this feeling. And so how is this story now connected to TMS? Well, this is how the brain also develops fear around normal things, right? When we have TMS. So what I described you was not a normal situation and could have been potentially dangerous, right? If it was the bad poisonous kind, that could have been really bad. But now with TMS, what happens is that the brain has become afraid and hypervigilant about totally normal things that are not dangerous at all. So when you think about it, what is it for you? For a lot of people, it's sitting. I can't sit. And people start to believe that there's something dangerous about sitting. They look at a chair and they get pain because they get so afraid. Let's say that my problem was bending forward, right? Because my back was hurting. I couldn't bend forward. I started associating that with pain. This is bad. This is painful, right? People can even have this with like places, right? For some people are like, I can't go to the grocery store because that equals pain. Or I cannot meet this person, or if I talk to this person, that equals pain. But when you think about it logically, like the place or the person or sitting, all the examples that I gave you, and put your own example there, what applies to you, these things are truly not dangerous. They're not. They're not a freaking scorpion, right? And so now when you are telling yourself that this is dangerous, you're teaching your brain that this is dangerous. And the more you do it, and the more you avoid sitting, going to places, talking to people, the more you're teaching to your brain that there is an actual really dangerous situation, and the worse you get. So the only way you can overcome or start overcoming your pain or your uncomfortable situations or sensations if you have TMS is when you go and do these places, these things, and go to these places that your brain has learned mistakenly associate with pain, right? So let me give you an example again here. Let's come back to sitting. So if you're like, oh, sitting is bad, chairs are dangerous, and you never sit, you are going to get worse. What you have to start doing is you have to start sitting down, and you have to be cool with chairs, right? So even though you've had this pain in the past and you have conditioned your brain to be a certain way, you still have to show your brain that this is fine. This truly is fine, because it is. Chairs are not dangerous, right? Or talking to people generally not dangerous. And if you're avoiding these things, you are reinforcing the idea that they're bad. And the same thing comes coming back to movement, which is something that I've talked about in the past 4 episodes, like getting back to strength training. Then also people think, I cannot do this, right? I have this pain, I have this discomfort. It's my TMS is so bad, and there's absolutely no way I'm going to start exercising, because we're telling ourselves that this is so dangerous, while it's not. Exercise is not dangerous. If it's done reasonably, it's not dangerous. You can always think, is it what I'm about to do a normal thing, right? Let's say I want to do 10 squats, pretty normal, right? But what could be maybe dangerous if you like wanted to do like a squat with 500 pounds on your back? Yeah, probably, if you've never done this. Some people do it and they're very healthy and everything's fine. But if you've never done it, don't do 500-pound squats. So that could be maybe dangerous, right? So you have to think like, okay, the normal things that I'm doing, like, how can I reduce my fear and still do these things? Because this is the key to teaching your brain. Like, you can't only like think that, oh, I know sitting is actually not dangerous. You have to demonstrate, and you have to do these things. And so the reason why I brought the story in here is like, I realized, like, when I became so hyper vigilant around this, the scorpion situation, was like, oh, this is exactly what my brain did when it tried to tell me all the time that bending forward is dangerous. So I became hyper vigilant and I started avoiding this, and I became kind of obsessed with my movement and how can I not move. And now this is totally in your hands. Now you have to make this decision that this stuff is not dangerous. And so you have to put yourself into these situations where you expose yourself to the things that have felt uncomfortable, or that your brain has created this connection, like between this thing or place or person being like bad or painful. So you are the one who has to break this cycle. And the only way to do this is to start doing the things that used to cause you pain. And of course, the sensations can go up at first. It's so common, but there's only one way to the other side of it, and that's through. You can't avoid it. You can't like, oh, I'm just going to think here that chairs are not dangerous, but I'm never going to sit on it. And I'm going to hope that the dangerous sensations or like the dangerous signals on chairs go away. They won't go away unless you do it. So you have to start exposing yourself to these things. The other thing that I wanted to mention related to this scorpion story is the power of belief. Okay, the power of belief. So here's what happened next. So on Tuesday, I was a little sleep deprived because of the past couple of nights. But I went to do my boxing workout. So I go kickboxing every Tuesday. And because I had been feeling kind of low, a little bit tired, I told my coach that, hey, I have to take it a little bit easier. I was kind of like in this very anxious state for a couple of days, and I feel like this is like impacting me, right? My body is in this little heightened state, but I showed up because working out is not dangerous. So I showed up, but I modified things. So here's the thing. I talked about it when I did the episode about perfectionism too. When it comes to perfectionism and strength training, like, yes, you can modify things. Yes, you can be okay with doing less sometimes. So I showed up for the workout, but the way I modified is by telling my coach that, hey, we're going to take it easier today, and we're going to do a little bit less today, right? So instead of our 30 minutes, let's do 20 minutes. Okay, cool. And by the way, after the workout, I felt so much better. Movement is magical. It really is magical. If you're not moving your body yet out of fear, you have to start doing it. So when I told my coach, like, what's going on? I was like, yes, I got stung by a scorpion. It really sucked. I was really scared for a while. And he's like just casually like getting the boxing gloves out of the cabinet. And he's like, oh yeah, that happened to me last month. I was like, oh, it happened to you last month? He's like, yeah, it happens here. And, sometimes here in Arizona, and they like to like climb into those palm trees. And when I'm cleaning the trees and, I don't know what the procedure is that you do with palm trees, but when I'm doing this thing, every now and then I see them. So yeah, I got stung like last month. And then 2 weeks later, I got stung by a wasp. I was like, yeah, you're saying like all these things while you like casually like uh, finding my wrist wraps and my gloves from the cabinet or from his bag. He's just chatting away like this is the most normal thing ever. And so I was like, "Oh, what happened?" He's like, "Well, yeah, my lower arm went numb and yeah, it's kind of painful for a couple of days, but yeah, it went away." And so, how much do you want to do then today? Do you want to do a little bit less then? And so I was like, "Oh, you took it so easy." And then he was like, yeah, I mean, this was the non-dangerous kind. And yeah, it sucked, but just moving on. What can I do about it now? And so this really like it calmed me down so much because I was like, wait a minute, here's a guy who got stung by a scorpion. 2 weeks later, he got stung by a wasp. It's just casually chatting away, not making like a big deal out of it. And so I was thinking, what am I thinking? And I realized like, oh, I have been like obsessively thinking about it all the time. I've been so worried. I've been like, telling Hugh about it like, 20 times a day, what happened. I was like, I have to stop doing it because like if I keep doing it, like I'm gonna keep it around. I'm gonna keep myself in this hypervigilant state. And just also like seeing how my coach was like, yeah, it's not a big deal. I mean, yeah, it's uncomfortable, but it's actually not harmful. You're gonna be totally fine. This gave me so much belief that I'm fine. Oh my God, I'm fine. And this is like bringing it back to TMS, like you are fine. Sometimes like hearing it from somebody else uh, can really like make this clear for you. Like, hey, yeah, I know it sucks, but you are okay. You don't have to spend your days thinking about it, obsessing about it, what ifing about it, especially with TMS when you are okay, right? You like nothing bad happened to you, didn't get hurt, you didn't get injured. Nothing bad happened to you. And if you understand the true definition of TMS, it is that you are fine. There's nothing wrong with your physical body. And if you're able to truly take it in and believe it, like with every cell of your body, you're gonna heal a lot faster. Just like it was for me when I heard my coach say, yeah, it sucks, but it's fine. I was like, oh, it's fine. There's a person in front of me who just had it and he's fine. And like, why would I keep like going back and forth and panic and talk? I'm gonna stop doing it. So this is the last time I'm doing it. So I'm telling you about this here in the podcast. And of course, yeah, maybe like my mom asked how I'm doing. I'm gonna tell her, but I'm not gonna like, discuss it anymore, like every moment of the day or thinking, well, sometimes yeah, the thought goes there. But I don't want to like start bringing it up all the time and telling myself like this, oh, what if, what if, what if? Because the reality is like, I'm fine. My toe is moving again. It is Wednesday now, and I almost have the sensations back in my like toe. It was numb for almost 3 days. But yeah, here we are, and this just calmed me down so much. And I was just realizing again, like how much a power of belief and how much like a positive input from somebody else can really lift you up and make you see that, what the heck am I doing here? I'm just spending so much energy on obsessing, while all this obsessing is probably adding to that problem, quote unquote problem, right? So I hope that this episode today helped you to understand these two things, how the brain works and how you might be creating hypervigilance and these dangerous signals in your brain if you are telling your brain that some situations or people or interactions or positions are dangerous. So you have to stop seeing them this way. Don't teach your brain to become more hypervigilant. And the second thing is power of belief. Like if you truly believe that you are fine, you will get better much faster. If you still keep obsessing and talking about it every free moment you have, it's going to take a lot longer. All right, this is all I have for you today. Thank you so much for being here with me. If you enjoyed this episode, please leave it a thumbs up on YouTube and also leave me a 5-star rating and review on iTunes and on Spotify. You can also leave me a rating there. So thanks so much for being here today and see you again very soon. Take care.